Why is it so hard to understand the economic impact of illegal immigration? I had some thoughts on this, Joe, and I'm hoping that you did too.
I didn't YouTube any, but I do have some thoughts on it.
Okay. All right. My first one, can I start?
I don't think you need to ask. Go for it.
Politics, man.
Yeah. Well,
It's just politics.
You just laid out. You said, FAIR, which is a more right-leaning group.
Yeah.
They're obviously going to take the bent that they feel like illegal immigration is bad.
Yeah.
And they want to get them all out. But you kind of turned their numbers on their head.
Well, I turned their numbers on their head using other numbers from the American Immigration Council, which claims to be a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization.
Yeah.
So how much do mass deportations cost us? And they're both going to argue over the validity of each other's numbers. And I think what happens is you've got both sides, different groups putting out different numbers that support their position. These are generally answers to very specific questions that are tailored to the results that they're seeking. So I think you've got a group like FAIR that goes into it and says, illegal immigration is bad. Let's figure out a way to show how much it costs us. And you've got the other immigration councils that say, the immigration that we have here in this country is good. Let's try to find some numbers that benefit our argument.
I think that's a very obvious, very fair way to look at it. I think it's even tougher than that, though. I think even if groups were not biased, I think it's very, very difficult, and you pointed this out too, to come up with an exact number because we don't know exactly how many undocumented immigrants are here or what exactly they are using in terms of services and what their true cost is, and in terms of what exactly they're contributing to.
Yeah, I agree. So we're hearing numbers between 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States and 22 million.
Yes.
So how can we possibly come up with a number? How can any group come up with a number and say, here's what it's costing us or here's what it's benefiting us when you can't even tell me if it's one or two people? 11 million or 22 million. Which is it? How do you have a number if we don't even know where to start?
Yeah.
All right. I also think that we have a very nebulous understanding of the economy. And I think that gauging anything with the economy is a best guess exercise.
What do you mean by that?
Well, think about the arguments we've had over like the tariffs recently. How much are the tariffs going to cost us? Right? In fact, take a look at the federal budget. So we know that we've got the Arizona budget, and they're arguing over that. You heard Becky Lynn's newscast where she was talking about how are we going to have a government shutdown, and Hobbs is not getting along with the House Republicans, this sort of thing. And they're fighting over some numbers that they know that they have. The federal government is trying to put together this massive spending package, right? Trump's big, beautiful bill, right? Mm-hmm. And then you get estimates from different groups. One group says, well, this is going to cost us, this is going to cost the American people $2.3 trillion. Another group says, oh, it's going to be $4.5 trillion. And then you've got the administration that says, no, this is going to save us $1 trillion. So everyone is trying to, again, I think in many cases you've got politics entering into it, where they're just trying to find the numbers that work for their argument. But I think in many cases, we just don't know how these numbers are going to pan out.
Well, and I don't think we can know. I think some of it, when you just look at the economy itself, we've said that a lot of it depends on vibes and just how people feel.
Well, that's true.
So I think you've got that going on of, hey, if the economy was booming, migrants might be spending more money. More migrants might be trying to come here. When you have the president saying, hey, get the heck out or else we're coming for you, some might be looking to self-deport. And how many? You don't know.
Well, that's the sum, right? Like, some of them, right. But is that 5 million? Is that 15 million? We don't even know if there's 15 million people here without documents to start with.
Right. So you've got a lot of numbers that you're just trying to throw a dart at the board on and take a best guess.
But now let's take your analogy that we're trying to throw a dart at a board. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make the argument that it's also a moving dartboard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because
when it comes to the economy, you can have so many things moving in different directions. For instance, think of the conversations that we've had about inflation, deflation, stagflation. You and I talk economy a couple times a week, right? Mm-hmm. One sector could be crushing it while other sectors struggle. The market is down today. It was up yesterday. Oil prices were up after the strikes in Iran, but they didn't skyrocket, and now they're actually down below where they were when we did those airstrikes.
So
right?
let me take it even a step further. I don't think the dartboard is simply moving left and right or even swaying in like an arch-like fashion. I think it's moving left and right, front and back, all these things simultaneously, too.
I agree.
So you can't figure out a pattern to it, but it's constantly moving.
So
and you're throwing a dart at that board.
So how can we possibly say that one thing is having this effect? I don't know that we can. I think that we can say in hindsight, oil prices went up and that was an indicator that this was happening. Mm-hmm. Unemployment was down and that was an indicator that this is happening. We know the feds do this all the time. They use these lagging indicators to try to predict what they should do with interest rates, right? But they have to wait for things to happen before they can interpret that data. Predicting it is incredibly difficult. In fact, what do they say? Economists is the only science that's less accurate than meteorology, right? Mm-hmm. Here's something I think is really interesting too, and this is from people who have skin in the game when it comes to the economy. FedEx has changed their projections for the year, and here's the story from the Wall Street Journal says this. Although it typically provides a full-year forecast, FedEx said it would only share its outlook for the current quarter due to the uncertain global demand environment. The forecast assumes no further negative developments in global trade dynamics. The chief customer officer said on the company's earnings call, and this is the money shot here, we just simply cannot predict how that's going to play out. Now, in large part, they're talking about supply, and they're talking about tariffs, and they're talking about inflation, this sort of thing, right? Mm-hmm. But one of the things that we know is having an effect on the economy, we can argue over whether it's positive or negative, is the immigration enforcement that we're seeing nationwide. And part of the reason I think we can argue over whether it's negative or positive is that we all make up our own numbers because it is still so hard to understand the economic impact of illegal immigration for all the reasons that you just laid out.
And I think the conclusion I draw is always there are some positives and there are some negatives. When you start to see the people who say it's all negative or all positive, those are the ones I tend to run away from. But it's how much positive, how much negative.
Yeah, I always throw those out too.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.